Hey guys, since you've all been asking how we edit our photos, we've made this little video showing you the basic tweaks we apply to every image using Adobe Lightroom. First, as an example, I'm going to edit this photo here that I took of Lauren in Barley. Okay, so first I'm going to apply a preset. Now, these are my own custom-made presets. If you don't have presets in Lightroom, that's okay. I'm still going to show you how to tweak the settings, which I'm sure you're still going to find helpful. I'm going to start by applying Barley preset number 2. Now, this preset works pretty well, but it's quite dark, so I'm going to go straight to the exposure, and I'm going to up it a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do is adjust the temperature. Now, the image looks a little bit too warm for my liking, so I'm going to take this down just a little bit. Okay, that looks a bit better. The tints, I'm pretty much just going to leave it as it is. I think it looks just fine. The highlights, I'm going to knock down a bit. This brings out the background a bit more. And the shadows and blacks, I'm going to bump up a little bit. Now this is going to brighten the photo without overexposing the highlights. The whites I'm going to bring up a little bit as well, just so I can pop the bed sheets. And then I'm going to go down to the highlight split toning tint, bump the saturation full just so I can pick the color that I want. And I'm going to go and take it to blues. Now what this will do is, as you can see in the bed sheets, it's kind of an orangey tint. Now that I've put the hue on blue, I can bump the saturation a bit, and it puts blues into the highlights and essentially gets rid of that orangey tint. Now I think it's a little bit too purple, so I'm going to take it down a little bit to about there. That looks good. Okay, shadows. I normally put a little bit of greeny orangey tint into my shadows just to give it that vintagey effect. I think about here's good. Bring it back down, and then I normally bump it by like 5 just to give it a little bit of warmth in the shadows. Okay, that looks good. I don't normally sharpen my images just because my images are already quite sharp, so I tend to leave this down here in the 10 zone. I think that's fine. Next thing we've got is the enable profile correction. Now this is good if you've got a wide image and it's quite warpy, but for images like this it kind of works, but I do prefer to keep it quite moody and I don't think it's really needed, so I'm going to leave that one unticked. The next thing I'm going to do is add some grain. I like to keep my photos looking pretty vintage, so grain's pretty good for that, but I keep the roughness down just because it gives more of a smooth feel to the image. Okay, looks pretty good. The last thing I'm going to do is change the colors individually. So using the color tools, I'm going to hit the greens, and I'm going to bump the greens a little bit, so pop them a bit more. I'm going to warm them a little bit by using this slider here, and I'm going to saturate them a little bit as well just to bring them out. That looks better. I'm then going to hit the yellows. I'm going to brighten the yellows a little bit. I'm going to desaturate them a little bit, and I'm going to make them a little bit more warm. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to crop the photo so the bed's centered. Click enter, and I think that's pretty much done. So as you can see, that's the finished photo. The before photo looks like this, and that's the finished edit. Alright, I'm going to hand you over to Lauren now, and she's going to talk you through another image.
Hey guys, so it's Lauren here now. I'm going to be showing you how I edit a photo. So I've got a different photo here. I'm using a different picture from Jack because it's got more blues, more sky, a bit of sand. That'll be a bit different for editing. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm in library. I'm going to go to the develop button. So once you're in develop, the first thing I do is I select a preset. So I'm not sure if you have presets or not, but I do highly recommend that you do have them. They do help a lot, especially if you're a beginner. So I'm going to go down here and look at my Tahiti presets and just click through to have a quick look at how these look. So I'm just having a quick look. I think I'm going to start with this one. So I usually look for a preset that works the best as it naturally is. So the first thing I will do is I'll come over here to the exposure. Now for this one, I'm just going to increase the exposure just a little bit. The second thing I would do is come up to the temperature and the tint. I'm thinking for this one a little bit warmer. So I'll just bump that up. Also this tint, I'm just going to check what I like better. It was pretty well on point, so I'll leave it how it is. The next bit I'm going to go down to is the highlights, shadows, whites and blacks. So looking at this image, it's taken in the middle of the day. So when it's taken in the middle of the day, it's quite harsh lighting. So I like to usually bring the highlights down and the shadows up. This sort of evens out the light because you've got the shadows and you've got the bright sun. The next thing is the whites and the blacks, and they sort of complement the highlights and shadows. So I'm going to bring the whites up a little bit, and I'm also going to bring the blacks out just a little bit, but I want to keep a bit of depth so I won't bring them all the way out. The next thing I might do is go up here to this crop area. So if you just click this button here, it goes into crop. I'm just going to bring the sides in a little bit here, and this side here too. I want to leave that mountain in because I really like it. The next thing I'll do is just check that the horizon is straight. This is the tool that I use for correcting the horizon. So I'll just drag a line across there and let it do its thing. So it just sort of automatically levels it. Press enter to save that crop. Now the next thing we have is clarity, vibrance and saturation. I don't usually touch these ones too much. If anything, I put the clarity down. I never put it up. Our next section I'm going to go into is the color editor. Now the first color I'll look at is the oranges, and that's generally the skin tones. I'm just going to zoom in to get a better look at myself. Now I'm looking a bit too yellow, and as you can see, the hue of the orange is up towards yellow is 12. So I'm just going to bring that one down, probably down to about 5. Now the next thing I know is I'm way too saturated. So I'll definitely just desaturate that a lot because I'm looking really orange. Okay, that's looking way better. And then I'll probably bump the illuminance up just a touch so I'm not too shadowed. Okay, so that looks much better. The next thing I'm going to go into is yellows. I like to keep my yellows quite warm. You can see I'll just do a quick change. They can go really green. I prefer my yellows a little bit that way. Now these yellows are a bit too saturated, so I'm just going to bring the saturation down. I do all my colours usually in this area, so I don't usually play with the saturation at the top because I'm desaturating which colours I need to down here. Now I like the yellows to be popped out a bit because that helps with the sand, my hair and the yellows in the palms. The next part is the greens. I'm going to bring the greens to be a bit warmer, and they're looking pretty good. I'll just leave them like that. My next step would be the water. So the water is a turquoise colour. So we come over here and just check which way we want the colour. If you go that way, it goes really green. This way is much more blue. I'm going to have it somewhere in between. Keep it how it naturally looked. The luminance will bring out the water or make it deeper. I like it quite brought out in this image particularly. And the next thing is the sky. So the sky is in the blue. The sky is actually looking pretty good as it is. I'm quite happy with that. But I'll just show you here the hue of it. You can change the sky to be many different colours, but let's keep it realistic. So I'm going to go this colour. We keep our blues quite desaturated because we don't like our skies to look too over the top. Now with the luminance you can get two different looks for your sky. If you want to have that real deep dark sky, which I don't think is very realistic, you can go that way, or you bring it all the way up and you can wash your sky out, depending on the photo and your preferences. I like to have mine about there for this image. Next we've got split toning. I won't do too much here because I don't think it really needs it, but I'll just quickly show you in the shadows. If I was to put any tint in the shadows here, it would probably be orange. If I bring it all the way up here, you can see which colour you're playing with. For me, a picture like this, I would put an orange into the shadows. The colours that I like to use in shadows are usually always just orange or green or somewhere in between. It's especially good for doing sunset and sunrise pictures. Now the sharpening I don't touch too much. If anything, bump it up by 10. But they're pretty sharp as they are, so they don't really need it. This here, enable profile correction. So this filter preset already has that applied, but I'll just show you what it does. Without it, it has quite a lot of vignetting, and that's due to the wide lens. It has a bit of distortion. So if you click that, you'll see it just sort of brings the image out a bit. We'll leave that one ticked because I like it like that. The next thing we got here is the grain. So this preset already has built in quite a lot of grain. If you zoom in, you can see it's got quite a vintage look already. So if I bring the roughness down, it gives it much more of a soft grain. So that's looking a bit better. I prefer my grain like that. You might like it up, or you might not like any grain, but I usually have mine about 20, 25. I'll zoom out so we can have a look. So it's looking pretty good. Just got one more thing that I'd like to show you for this image, and that's gradients. If you come up to here, this is the gradient section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a gradient across the sky. So the light's coming from this side, so I'm going to start by bringing through a light gradient this way. So what we do is we just drag it across. We go up here and check what our settings are in. So it's already got the exposure up. You've already got other settings put in, just put them all to 0. Might bring the shadows out a little bit. That's looking pretty good for that one. Now if I want to put a new one in, this is just my short way of doing it, and that starts a new one. And I'm going to bring one in from the opposite side. You can press the O key, and that'll show you what area you're working on. And you press the O key again to take that away. So I'm going to make it darker from this side to create that gradient across the sky. Okay, so as you can see, the look that I've created now, it goes from light to dark. If you want to exaggerate those or you want to change them again, you just come in and you click this and you access that gradient again. So I'm going to make it more dramatic. So bring that out a bit more, and you can always just drag this again. You can also use this tool here just to tilt it whichever way. So now you can see the gradient across the sky. It works really well for sunsets and sunrises as well, to put some gradients in just to add that depth, put a bit of colour in if you need. Down here's the colour area where you can tint a bit of colour into that gradient. We won't do it for this picture because it doesn't need it, but this is where you find that. So now that this picture is pretty well done, the final step would be just to export the image. So we just come up and we press the export, making sure it's saving to where you'd like. I'm going to save it to my desktop, and then I'm going to make sure it's a JPEG, and I like to keep mine at high quality, so 100. I'm just pressing that export button. So that's it for my tutorial today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned a thing or two and you can apply this to your images at home. Can't wait to see them all on Instagram, and thank you for watching.